Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that feels good, because that's what we all ultimately want. We want to feel good. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher. Today on the show, we are visiting with local entrepreneur and all-around cool guy that I've had the privilege of getting to know over this past year, Mathew Lambright. Now, here's a guy who has gone deep into the entrepreneur's journey between starting a mold remediation business, being an active real estate broker, and a real estate investor. By now, you know that I have a lot of respect and admiration for entrepreneurs. They're out there and they're making it happen. And when I meet someone that I find inspiring, I like to introduce them to you as well. So stick around for the conversation. But before we get to that, I do want to remind you that if you have questions you would like us to answer on or off the air, email those directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. You can also visit me at my website, fletcherellingson.com. I've got all sorts of free resources there for you to check out. Hey, you don't have to figure everything out on your own. There are answers and solutions and ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. Now, let's get to today's email. It says, Fletcher, I'm writing to you because I would like to break a negative cycle I grew up with and have unfortunately continued in my own family. The situation is that we complain a lot. I don't like it. I'm pretty sure none of us like it, but we all do it. And I'd like to change that and teach our kids to speak differently. Thanks for your advice. Signed, DS. Hey, DS, I really appreciate you writing in with this question. It's something that a lot of families deal with, and unfortunately, many people feel powerless to break the cycle. Complaining is usually a habit. It's a common habit that can drain our energy. It can strain relationships and hinder personal growth. Breaking the cycle of complaining requires a conscious shift in our mindset. Now, let's take a quick look at just a few specific and effective practices that you can begin in order to break free from the grip of complaining and begin fostering a more optimistic outlook and creating a feel-good life. The key word here is practice. You see, many people have become masterfully practiced at looking at a person or situation and finding something to complain about. We have to begin a new practice. One important thing before we go on, I advise you to begin modeling these practices before trying to force others to embrace them. Modeling them to your family will speak volumes. So here we go. First thing, practice noticing the wins. This is so important to break the cycle of complaining. Most people are complaining because they focused on what they don't have, what didn't work out, where they or someone fell short. I encourage you to begin looking for wins throughout the day. Did you get up on time? Win. Is the sun shining today? Win. Did you make the green light? Win. Did you find parking? Win. Did you get the account? Win. Did the presentation go well? Did you spend time with your friends or family? Win, win, win. Look for the wins. Talk about the wins. Share your wins with your family at mealtime and ask if anyone else had any wins. And remember, any size counts, okay? Doesn't matter, small, medium, big. Look for the wins. Number two, reframe challenges as opportunities. Complaining often arises from viewing challenges as obstacles rather than opportunities for growth. Now, I know you might be thinking, oh, come on, get real, but I really do mean it. Every challenge I've ever had has ultimately made me stronger or wiser or both. So we've got to practice changing our perspective by reframing difficulties as opportunities to learn, to develop resilience, to acquire new skills. Instead of dwelling on the negative aspects, focus on the lessons and potential benefits that can arise from overcoming obstacles. Embracing challenges with a growth mindset allows you to approach them with a productive and solutions-oriented attitude. And therefore, it reduces the need for complaining. And anytime you actually do this, recognize yourself for it. That's right, give yourself a pat on the back. It's a big deal. We want to acknowledge and reinforce the desired behavior. Third thing, engage in problem solving. Complaining without taking any action is counterproductive. okay? Instead, channel your energy into problem solving. When faced with a challenge, identify the underlying issues and brainstorm potential solutions. Take proactive steps towards resolving the problem rather than merely venting about it. You see, when we habitually complain, we are frequently feeling that something's not in our control, and we feel like a victim. By engaging in problem solving, you regain a sense of control and empowerment over your circumstances, which reduces the urge to complain. And finally, surround yourself with positivity. The people and environments we surround ourselves will greatly influence our mindset. I know that's been the case in my life. So seek out positive and supportive individuals who uplift and inspire you. Now, it may mean in some cases that you need to create some new relationships. Find activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Limit exposure to negative news, gossip, and toxic relationships that fuel complaining. You do this by surrounding yourself with positivity and cultivate an environment that fosters optimism and encourages healthier forms of communication. This really is key for creating lasting and empowering, feel-good news cycles of being. So, DS, I hope that gives you a good place to start. I know you can do this. I believe in you. Just get out there and get in action. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but then we're going to be right back here to talk mold, entrepreneurship, and living life with Mathew Lambright. Stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. So glad you're here. I'm so glad you're in this conversation. As you know, I think this is a very important conversation. And today we're talking with entrepreneur Mathew Lambright. Welcome to the show, Mathew.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, glad you're here. Hey, we're going to get into what you do, how you do it, why you do it. But first, we got to start out with a couple of wins because we like to practice on what's going well in life.
Yes. Well, I had a few wins planned out, and then I was listening to the start of your show, and I was thinking about complaining, and I was thinking about yesterday I probably received 25 to 30 robocalls, people just calling in from multi-dialers, and it was all to ask me, do I want to refinance my home? And it was because of a credit pull that I made, and it leads me to a big win of mine where I've been wanting to remodel a home for my family and then refinance it with a VA loan. And I successfully got an appraisal just this week, and it was very successful.
Nice.
Now, that comes with a lot of robocalls, and it's easy to complain about those. But when I really, really think it through, I'm pretty grateful to be getting them.
Yeah, right on, right on.
And I think if I had to pick one more, I've been learning to surf. Ever since I moved here, I've been learning to surf. And those of you who have surfed, it's not easy at the wave pool. And I'm starting to get good at it.
At the wave pool in Chelan.
Yeah, Lakeside.
Yeah.
It's completely different than anything I've ever done. I ride most things goofy, and I found with this I've had to do regular, and it's been really fun and rewarding.
Right
Great
on.
way to start the day.
Yeah, you get up early and go, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Good. Well, thanks for sharing. So let's talk about your business, which is the Mold Docs, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So first thing, we hear about mold and how bad it is, but why is it such a bad thing? Why is it threatening?
Yeah. Well, just like any other organism or living thing, it's meant to kind of be away from us. When we are around mold, we bring it into our bodies. It becomes a toxin. It takes over areas where we're kind of weakened. I know you like to play pickleball. It takes a lot of respiratory work. If you were to do that a lot and you're always trying to heal, if you were in high levels of mold, that would impact you quite a bit. You'd probably have asthma issues, things of that nature. If you're a little bit older, it can impact you cognitively. It can mess with you a little bit there. And it gets a little bit dangerous because of the way that mold works is, it is a living thing that brings in organic material, and then it off-gasses as well. So not only do you deal with mold, but then you deal with the off-gassing that comes with it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so if you ever, someone's cooking bacon across the house from you, and you've ever smelled that, it comes to you so quickly through the air. Now imagine what off-gases do as they're in your attic or in your crawl space or nearby. Those can impact you as well.
Oh, yeah. So that is going through the air. We don't know it, and we don't necessarily maybe smell it, but getting into our bodies. Yeah,
so when we do like air quality testing, we have a parameter of measuring per cubic meter, and so that's how we determine how many mold spores are in the air. So then I start to think of it per cubic meter, how many is in between us right now? And on average, we should see 500 to 1,000 mold spores in a normal space. But a lot of places, as they get bad, we might see 10,000 right here, and that can impact us pretty greatly, and we still don't see them.
Got it. Okay. Very interesting. That's cool. I didn't know. I don't have any knowledge about this. So, are there different kinds of molds that you deal with in your experience, and that you're looking for specifically?
Yeah. So the most common molds we see a lot of Penicillium aspergillus. It's that's a really common mold spore in the Pacific Northwest. In the arid, in the more wet climates, we'll see a lot more of that. Cladosporium, basidiospores. Those are two types that feed on wood. So you'll see those in attics a lot. And then the marker molds, a couple of the gnarly ones, like we call them black mold. Now there are a lot of molds that are black, but when it comes to the toxic stuff that we think of, Stachybotrys and Cotomium, that's CH, Cotomium can really impact us greatly. So if you ever do an air quality test or any test on your own and you see those two, Stachybotrys, Cotomium, you need to call someone right away. It's probably pretty bad.
Yeah, that's something you do not want to be around.
No.
Got it. And is there an impact to like the structural integrity of your attic if mold gets out of hand?
Yeah, so that has to be quite a bit over time, but the way it works is mold grows exponentially in these attics, and these attics are a perfect place to grow because you have a lot of the heat and humidity rising into the attic. And so we have all these structural standards to get that out, but the reality is if you're always pumping heat into the house, you're always pushing that into the attic. And so they'll move up into the attic and they'll start growing exponentially. And that could take, usually with a house, 30 to 60 years, you'll start seeing it grow quite a bit. And if it's got really, really good conditions, it can eat away at the plywood up there and be a problem.
Got it. So when you are going in and looking for mold, are you looking for visible signs, or are you doing something to measure the mold in the air?
Yeah, so there's actually a few different ways that we do the mold testing. Now, a lot of it just comes with experience, getting to see these houses over time. First thing we look at is how old is this home? Does it have aluminum windows? Does it have forced air? Because forced air and vinyl windows really help us not get mold. Now, with the aluminum windows, you get a lot of condensation. With not having forced air, the air just kind of stays stagnant, and that's just great conditions for growing mold. So we look at those things right off the bat, and then we look at all the places where there's food in the home. So when I think of mold and I think of food, I think of moisture intrusion, things of that nature. And so I'll look in windowsills, I'll look underneath cabinets where maybe water could have leaked down, and I'll look in attics especially. So, and then bathrooms are a great place to look as well. And so that's the quick and get in there, get an idea what's going on and move on. And then there's of course air quality testing and things of that nature that can supplement that. Those just cost a little bit.
Got it. All right, so let's say you're in a home, you've determined there is mold. Now what? Yeah. So we have a lot of tools in our tool belt, and it really just depends on what's going on with the home. My favorite thing to do is dry fog remediation. Now we have all of the standard water restoration concepts that one would do. Tear out, do a little bit of air scrubbing, negative air, things of that nature. Those are great, I love those, but one of my favorite things to add to that is a dry fog remediation. That allows you to handle mold in a few different ways, because mold likes to off-spore when it's attacked. It also is quite small, so a lot of sprays can't get in to where the mold's at because of surface tension. And so when you're actually attacking that mold, a dry fog allows you to attack deeper than surface tension, and the molds that try to get out, there's nowhere to go. And when you're saying dry fog, do you mean like it's actual like a fog, like a fog machine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it gets to the point where you can't see in front of your face. It needs to be that thick, and as long as it's dry, it works because it won't get anything wet. But that's very important, I think. But like I said, I think the prevailing point here is not that there's just one way to do it. I think it's having the knowledge and understanding mold enough to be able to tackle it from a bunch of different angles.
And one more question before we go to break. Is mold, I know you said it sounds like mold can show up in like wet areas. So when you do an inspection, are you inspecting like top to bottom of the home? I mean, attic, living areas, basement, crawl spaces, or is there a particular area that you go to?
No, I mean, when we do inspections, we do a pretty quick top to bottom because it is free for us. We typically can get a feel for a home pretty quickly if it's a problem. It's not as common that there's just one isolated area, and usually when that happens, it's pretty obvious. You've had some sort of water intrusion. It's pretty obvious to you, usually.
Got it.
When we do a full home check, we'll check all the places, but we usually know where the hot ticket places are, and you can figure out pretty quickly if you got an overall problem with the home. We call it like a higher mold load within a home. And you might see that starting with homes somewhere around 30, 40, 50 years, especially like the 1970s and before that. You might start seeing a lot of just higher mold load in the air. That mold has grown different places, it's off-spored, it's started to grow in the air, and you kind of see just kind of tick up a little bit over time. So that 500 mold spores that I talked about, if you're in a 70-year-old home, we might be at 10,000 or 15,000. And that creates this opportunity for exponential growth anytime that we have water intrusion or things like that.
Got it, because that's the food that it uses.
That's food.
Right on. Good stuff. All right, hey, we're going to take a quick break, but stay with us because we're going to come back. We're going to talk entrepreneurship. So see you in a minute. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. Love that you're here with us. We're talking with Mathew Lambright today about mold remediation, entrepreneurship, and let's talk about entrepreneurship because you got several irons in the fire, don't you?
Yep.
Besides taking care of mold issues for people, you also are a real estate broker. But before we get to that, if somebody has been listening to this and they're like, oh man, we should contact Mathew. We've got an issue with mold, or we may have. How do they reach you?
Okay, yeah, so we've been trying to keep that as simple as humanly possible. So it's mold docs, D-O-C-S, info@molddocs.com or molddocs.com. You can go to the website and just find us there. Pretty quick and easy.
All right, molddocs.com if you want to get a hold of Mathew. And you also are not just in North Central Washington, you also work down in Portland doing this too, right?
Yep.
And anywhere along the I-5 corridor.
Yep, we can work with anywhere along that stretch.
All right, cool. So you're also a licensed broker. And so how's that going for you?
It's going well. I'm learning a lot about the local area, have a lot of respect for it, and we have several land listings, things like that. We listed and sold the old zip line property, which was nice and challenging.
Up in Chelan.
Yep, it was nice to see that in its old glory days and get to kind of see the old vision of what it used to be. And we have several other land parcels that are up as well.
And tell everyone, what's the brokerage where you're working?
Yeah, so I'm a part of the Lakeland Agency, and that's off of Tro in Chelan.
Got it. Cool. Not only are you listing and selling, but you're also investing.
Yep.
Right. So that's been a journey.
That's been a journey.
Yeah.
I'm probably on my 24th project to date.
Nice. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot because you're only about 25, right? I mean, come on. But no, seriously though, that's a lot of investments, because you go in there and you sometimes strip them down to the bare minimum and then start rebuilding.
Yes, I've been on a journey. I've done a lot of remodels, a lot of flips. I've really worked hard to hold properties as well. I think one of the biggest errors I made and biggest learning lessons I made in the last few years was trying to full gut and create this perfect product out of every single house. And it's just because I am so passionate about them. But I've started to pump the brakes a little bit on that and just take it one at a time and try to make something truly special. I started off in my late 20s really trying to just pump them out, do really fun flips and just learn how to be a real estate investor. But they all started looking the same and feeling the same and just not feeling like it was good enough. And I really, once I got into my 30s, I really wanted to produce like a great product, something that would be special. That way, if I decided to sell it, I wasn't just selling junk. I was selling something worth it.
Yeah, something quality, right? Yeah, you put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what's neat about that is if somebody's, that's got to serve you so well as a real estate broker too, right? I mean, you have this intimate knowledge of looking at a listing from an investing standpoint, right? Or if somebody is looking to do what you have done, you can guide them. You can provide a lot of guidance. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's nothing like somebody who's had their skin in the game, 30, 40 times, the buying and the selling side. You've gotten to see that intimately, and then you get to know where you want to put your money and like where to put it properly in order to gain the best value in a property as well. Because when we get in love with a home, we tend to invest into things that maybe don't quite increase the value. And that's okay if you're going to be there for a long time. But if you know you're going to be there for maybe 5 years and you're going to upgrade with the family, or you're going to do this, do that, you know, it's probably best to put the money where it matters, enjoy the place while you can, and that way you can gain the most overall value out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are ways to jump into a property and really pump in your own, you know, forced equity into it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's kind of been your specialty. Like you go in and you're hands-on, right? Yeah, that's really cool.
Even though you probably don't want to see me swinging a hammer, I'm getting better at it. But you know, the projects I try to do, I try to stay out of the way. Things that I get excited about, maybe I can have a beer and work on it in the evening or something of that nature.
Yeah.
But if it's going to impact the timeline of the project, or it's going to be something that's right there in your face, I leave that to the professionals.
Yeah, and I also like that you understand how to creatively finance projects as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so creative financing if you're not aware of creative financing, there are several different ways to finance a home, not just the standard bank route. You know, if somebody has some equity and you have a great relationship with them and they know you're trustworthy, there are things like owner carries. You can work with private money if you can, especially there are a lot of folks right now trying to find safe places to put their money because the world's kind of crazy right now. And so you have creative financing, you have, which would be owner carry, subject to, which is where you very boldly try to take over a mortgage. And then there are lease options, things like that of that nature. So having that all in one tool belt allows you to go into a project that may not make sense and find an area with the owner that is really important to them that might work with a creative financing tool belt.
I love it. And that's what you do well. So if you are looking at buying or selling a home, or looking at investing, getting your portfolio of investments started, give him a call. I mean, he's got a ton of knowledge. What's the best number to reach you at?
I would say, so I'll just give my personal cell on here. So it's 360-936-9431. Reach out to me anytime. I'm always happy to help. Always happy to talk real estate.
Right on. All right, good, good, good. Hey, well, that's it for our time today. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it. And now it's time for you to get out there, be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You do have something to offer this world, and I believe in you.